If I was to say to you that this G-Tide R1 smartwatch is packed with so many features, from a HD screen, 24-hour VC52 heart rate monitor, a sleep tracker, blood oxygen monitoring, continuous body temperature monitoring, messages and notifications from your phone, a 300 milliamp battery that has lasted me over 2 weeks on a single charge, still has battery right now, IP68 waterproof down to 10 meters, and it also has 24 different sport modes and many other features built into it, how much do you think it's actually worth? Maybe 200, maybe even 100 pounds. Well, it's actually only worth around 50 pounds, and I think for what you get and that ridiculously low price, it is pretty fantastic. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, you actually want to know a little bit more about the G-Tide R1 smartwatch? Well, yes, I've got quite a lot more things to say about it. When you receive the G-Tide R1 smartwatch, it will come in this nice small box, showing the watch on the front and a few of the main highlights. When opened, we find the watch sat inside this all cardboard packaging, which I really like. Once we take the watch out, we can start to get a real feel of what this watch is actually like. The main body of the watch is made of this brushed aluminium, and I chose it in black, but it is also available in grey. The watch itself feels nice and solid and well made, and on the back you will find the built-in sensors and the magnets for the charger. I feel like the circular design of this smartwatch is very similar to a Samsung smartwatch, rather than the more square looking Apple Watch. The thickness of this watch is 13mm, and it has 2 buttons on the side. The top one is used to turn the watch on and off, but it also has grooves around it allowing us to spin it. But the bottom one is just a button. The overall size of this watch is 45mm, but the screen is only 33mm, but it does support a 360 by 360 IPS touchscreen, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. The strap that it comes with is silicone, so it has a nice soft feel to it. On the back, we can see the tiny sliding arms, which is used to take the straps on and off. This style is pretty common with other watches, but I do feel like it is slightly fragile and is really fiddly to get the straps on and off. Next up in the box, we will find the USB charger and magnetic charging dock. All we have to do is plug it in and place the watch on top of the dock and it will start charging. But the magnets on that dock are not strong at all, so if you wanted to hang your watch up, it would just fall straight off. So when you charge it, you'll have to do this on a flat surface. And this charging cable is about 55 centimeters long. And finally in the box you will find a spare strap, which is really nice to see, and mine came in this dark blue colour. And also you'll find the user manual. So I have actually been using this watch over the past 2 weeks full time, and I have to say I am super impressed. The battery is fully charged in less than 2 hours, and it states that it can last 10 days on a single charge with quite regular use and about 20 days with reduced usage. But for me, a single charge has lasted me 2 weeks. That's 14 days on a single charge, and it has been monitoring me 24/7, and I still have 9% battery left, which is just bonkers. So by pressing that top button, we can actually now turn the watch on and see that IPS screen in its full glory, and I have to say it's actually really high quality and super detailed as well. We can then use that touchscreen and scroll down from the top, and we have a few different options. One of them on the left hand side, that is the torch option. So if we click that, it basically makes the whole screen go white. We can actually use our watch as a torch, which works fairly well. We can obviously turn it on and off as well like this. Scroll back, we've then got a do not disturb mode or a sleep mode. We've got a call button if we've got it connected to our phone. We've got a brightness settings. We can change the actual brightness of the watch. I tend to leave it on the actual brightest setting. We've then got the actual settings menu as well, so we can then go into here, we can change the dial, the theme, the brightness of the screen, the sound settings, the about, download the app, language, and all of those fun things like that. If we then go to the dial, we can actually scroll through different inbuilt options on the phone for different watch faces, and we can actually then choose the one we want. So say we actually want the one which I originally had, we can tap it, and then that is the actual watch face which will be shown on the actual watch. If I then scroll over from the right hand side, we can then see a few of the very basics that the watch captures. For instance, the steps I've done today, the calories burned, and also the distance I have walked. And as you can see, I've not done much today, so I must go out and do a little bit more. If I then scroll over one more time, we can then see the heart rate monitor, and it's got a 24-hour graph, and the heart rate on that left-hand side, you can see your highest heart rate and your lowest heart rate, and this is the kind of the live readout of my heart rate as it is right now. Scroll over again, and this has got our temperature, our body temperature, so skin temperature and also our body temperature. So if I wait a second, it will then pop up with my body temperature, and there we go, 36.5 degrees C for the body temperature. I can then scroll over one more time and we can see the sleep breakdown, and as you can see, I got a good amount of sleep last night. We have our deep sleep and our light sleep, so a nice quick easy way to see a breakdown of the sleep. Scroll over again. This is our blood oxygen monitoring, and there we go, 96, 98, 99%, so that's a fairly good blood oxygen level. We can then scroll over one more time, and now my watch is connected to my phone, so that is where it's pulling this data of the weather. Scroll over one more time and we've actually got a calculator. If we then press this button, it then goes back to this sort of the main menu. If we scroll up, this is where our messages and our notifications from our phone will come to, but I actually don't have anything on there at the moment. And then if we actually scroll over from the left-hand side, this is our sort of main actual menu. So this is where we can jump into lots of different things like training. So this is where we will actually click to basically tell the watch that we're doing certain sport activities. So tennis, walking, basketball, football, baseball, volleyball, cricket, rugby. There's so many to actually choose from. Now, this actual option is the same as this bottom button here. So if I go back to the main menu or the main kind of watch face, if I press this one, that is a shortcut straight to our sports settings here. So that is basically what this bottom button does. We can actually use this dial here and actually scroll it on here, but as you can see, there is a slight kind of jump or lag when I'm actually using this kind of wheel, and I find it slightly awkward because I wear the watch on my right wrist. I find scrolling this with my left hand slightly awkward, so I tend to just use my finger and scroll around on that actual touch screen. If it's connected to your phone, you can actually play, pause and skip music from your phone, which is kind of cool. It's got like a Bluetooth connectivity, but also in this this menu on the left hand side, we have extra options as well, which we can only find in this setting. So for instance, we've got a stress level, a fatigue level, a mood level, our respiration rate. It's even got breathing exercises and things like that as well, and a function menu, which basically goes to our stopwatch, our timer, to find our phone, flashlight and calculator. So as you can start to see now, the options are in a few different places. Some places there's shortcuts, for instance, like that flashlight and things are straight away if we just scroll down from the top. And when we're in this main sort of menu here with all of those options, if you don't like the fact that you've got to scroll through all of them to potentially find them, there's something that we can actually do. If we scroll down from the top of it, we can then press that button in the middle, and here you'll see that it's kind of got all of those little dots. If I then pull in from the left, it now basically looks a bit more like an Apple Watch, and we can basically see all of the icons of the actual watch, but you do have to know what those icons mean, and there's no text to actually tell you what they are. So maybe in time you will start to know what each of those icons mean, but for me personally, I'm not a great fan of that, so I tend to keep it on the actual line ones. So when I pull in from the left hand side, all of my icons have got the text on it as well. There's also a third option, which basically means that we can scroll around, but again, it doesn't actually show you the text on the screen of what each one does. So you just have to know what they do by the actual look of the actual icon. But again, I just find that slightly more confusing than keeping it with that standard line one. So we can just pull in and see all of it nice and easy. It's just an easier way for me to actually see and use the actual watch. And if you might have noticed as well, a few times when I'm scrolling around, there is a little bit of a lag sometimes with the actual screen itself. But overall, as you can see when I'm like scrolling around, it does pick up most of them pretty well. And I have to say that the touchscreen I'm actually quite impressed with. And again, the actual IPS screen itself shows a lot of those details, and we can actually, you know, pick out those tiny little details within the weather. For instance, it comes across really nice and crisp. Now the watch itself can actually talk back to an app on your phone which is called GT Fit Pro, and this app gives us a little bit more detail than the actual watch does itself. So we can actually see a bit more of a breakdown. So for instance, we can go into, say, the heart rate, and we can see a breakdown similar to what we've got on the watch, but a bit more of a detailed graph, and it kind of gives us a little bit more information. We can then click up here and we can actually start to go into different days. So if we want to see what our heart rate was like back in time, this is where everything is kind of stored and easily found on the actual app itself. If we then go into device, we can then actually add or take things away from our actual watch itself. So we could actually go into the address book and we can add up to 100 contacts from our phone straight onto the watch. So we know who is calling us, for instance, and take messages and stuff as well. But for me, I've not actually set that up because I don't want the notifications come through onto my actual watch. But this is where we can actually go in and choose which apps to allow notifications to come through to our watch. So this might actually appeal to some people, but for me personally, I don't want my notifications go through to my watch, and that is why I've turned these all off. One thing that I like is the light up option, and that is basically a raise to wake. So when you bring your watch up to your face, the watch should light up. But I do find that there is a slight delay with the raise to wake, that when I bring the watch up, as you can see, there's almost like a half a second to a second delay before the watch actually kind of clicks on and shows me. I just wish there was an option in here to actually change that sort of sensitivity, but there's either on or off, and I obviously keep it on. And as you can imagine, there are so many settings built into this actual app that we can turn on or off, which will actually help or decrease our actual battery life of the watch itself. One of them, for instance, you might not actually want to take the body temperature. If you're not really going to be going out, we can easily just turn that off, and that's going to increase our battery life a small percentage because it's not going to keep testing the temperature of the body every hour or so. And one thing that I really like is the fact that there are so many different watches to actually choose from. So if we actually go into the dial center, we can actually scroll through literally so many different watch faces, and if we find one we actually like, so say for instance we like this one with our little fox on it here, we can literally say synchronize dial. As you can see, it is now updated on my watch without me actually doing anything apart from clicking the watch face I like on the actual phone. And one thing that I really like is the fact that we can actually create our own custom watch faces. So if we click custom dial, click into here, we can actually then start to change the different settings of the watch face. We can even choose a picture from our phone and actually use that as a watch face. So that is super cool there. And then if I press sync now, synchronize dial, and there we go. A few seconds later, the watch face is updated and that picture from my phone is now on my watch, which is really cool and a really great way to customize this watch. And when we have a bright watch face screen like we do now, we can really start to see how thick those bezels are around the actual watch. When we have a black screen, it almost just disappears and we don't notice how small the actual screen is compared to the actual watch itself. But as soon as we actually have a brighter screen, we can see how thick it is around here. And the actual screen itself does pick up a few kind of fingerprints and finger marks, as you can see here, but I've noticed that there are not really any kind of scratches or actual dinks or anything, and I have been wearing this for about 2 to 2.5 weeks now. I think I've only got a very, very light kind of scratch mark on one side of the glass, as you can probably just pick out there. So over time, I don't know how many kind of dinks and scratches this watch face will pick up, but for the last kind of 2.5 weeks, I do feel like it's done pretty well. So I have to admit, when I first heard about this watch, I really wasn't expecting much for the price of around about £50. But after using it for the past couple of weeks and really getting to know the features and seeing that super impressive battery life, I do think that it is a pretty fantastic buy for that price, and I will be continuing to use this full time. But I would love to know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the G-Tide R1 smartwatch? Do you have one? Is there any other smartwatches that you have or you know about that this could compare to? I would love to know in the comment section down below. If this is the first video you've seen of mine, a cheeky like and subscribe would be awesome. Thanks so much for watching.